Hi folks, welcome to RJA Impact. Having covered the background to this case with a couple of previous videos, I want to bring things up to date with the lead up to the trial that's now scheduled to commence this month, July 2022. As a reminder, the trial is in connection with the 1996 disappearance of Kristin Smart, a Cal Poly freshman who disappeared after an off-campus party in May 1996. So before I get into the details of the court appearances, let's go through the people involved to get a good basis for the rest of the video. And before I do that, if you like this video and subscribe to the channel, that would be very much appreciated. Thanks in advance. Ruben, 81, and Paul, 45, Flores, father and son, have been appearing in a Monterey County courtroom from Wednesday the 6th of July and are accused of murder in the case of Paul and as an accessory in the case of Ruben, in that he helped conceal Kristin Smart's body. They were arrested in April 2021. So they were in court to hear motions about evidence and procedures that can or cannot be brought into evidence in their forthcoming trial. The trial is likely to take some time, and so let's introduce the main characters appearing for the opposing legal teams before we cover the motions discussed. Paul Flores' attorney is Robert Sanger, and Sanger is a partner in Sanger, Swishen and Uncle, based in Santa Maria and Santa Barbara. He qualified as a lawyer in the early 70s and became well known when he defended the pop icon Michael Jackson and secured a not guilty verdict for him in the child molestation case from Santa Barbara County. Ruben Flores' attorney is Harold V. Messick. Early in his career, he was a firefighter for the University of Davis and also a building inspector in Northern California. He qualified by taking night classes and became a qualified attorney in the early 2000s. He is a self-proclaimed underdog supporter. One of his highest profile cases, which was really local, was the Destiny Myers murder case, where he represented Jason Greenwald. Talking about his firm, he'd been quoted as saying, "Messick's defend the underdog. My approach generally is to take the strongest evidence the district attorney has and confront my client with it and say, hey, how do you explain this?" For the prosecution, we have a St. Louis Obispo County attorney Christopher Puvril. Qualifying after attending Santa Clara University, he passed the bar exam in 2006. One of his profile cases that he's prosecuted was that of the People versus Roberto Aguilar. Just to clarify one point, you might be asking what a San Luis prosecutor is doing in Monterey, where the case is being tried. Well, the reason is that the case was moved from San Luis because the Kristin Smart disappearance has had such a high profile there over the years that it was thought that the Flores wouldn't be able to get an impartial jury. So where are we with the trial, and what of substance has been discussed? Well, firstly, Paul is being remanded in custody while Ruben is currently out of custody. Jury selection has taken place for Paul and will actually have two juries. Ruben's jury is scheduled for selection on July the 11th. Now, with alternates, the overall jury pool that will be in the court by my reckoning will definitely be over 30 and possibly nearer 40. So let's go through the discussions. A phone call. In January 2020, a phone call was recorded between Paul and his mother Susan. There were many topics discussed, but in particular there was a discussion of a podcast that had been made in respect of Kristin's disappearance. Puvril for the prosecution wanted it in. Sanger argued that the podcast is factually incorrect and that his client has suffered over the years due to the allegations and questioned its significance. Judge O'Keefe said the call would be admissible. Conversations between Paul and a detective. There were conversations had on May the 31st, 1996 and June the 19th, 1996, and these would be allowed in for Paul's trial, but not for Ruben's trial. Searches. Now, there have been various searches of the Flores properties over the years, and Paul's defence said that these were unlawful and based on what he called a Wild West approach. Judge O'Keefe said there was actually no malice or reckless omission, and so the results of the searches could be brought into evidence. Cadaver dogs. There have been hours of argument about the behaviour of cadaver dogs that were brought into the searches and no decision on this was made yet. Apparently there was a zoologist in court, and Judge O'Keefe said he'd further look at this in due course. Okay, so that briefly brings things up to date for now, and the decision on the cadaver dogs will probably be out by the time I release this video. If so, I'll put a note in the comments. Now, additional observations and additional points, just so that we're all on the same page, and in no particular order, are as follows. Now, firstly, whilst their trials are actually separate, that is Paul and Ruben, they're going to be tried together. And this sounds somewhat cumbersome to me. For example, the only way to have evidence tried in one case and not the other, for example the detective conversations, will be for one set of jurors to leave the court and the other remain. How this in-out approach will work in practice remains to be seen. I assume that this has been done before, and so there is some precedent for it, but sounds somewhat painful in practice to me. The trial itself is expected to start with opening arguments on July the 18th, and Judge O'Keefe has indicated that it will likely last until October 2022. A point of interest and a bit of a factoid on the jury selection. Apparently there were over 1,500 jurors who went through screening, and 390 of them were scheduled for voir dire, which is where they are questioned by the attorneys before being selected. 120 of these are still to be questioned for the selection of Ruben's jury, Paul's jury already having been selected. You might be wondering why the case has been delayed a few times, and whilst I don't have specific knowledge on all of the reasons, Ruben Flores has recently undergone a triple bypass heart surgery, and I believe his health issues have been at least partly responsible for some of the delays. And finally, for those of you who are not aware of YOB or YOB, this is a podcast by Chris Lambert. Now the acronym stands for Your Own Backyard, because this was the area of the country that he was brought up in, and the first episode of that came out in 2019. It's a great piece of investigation work on the Kristin Smart case, and has been credited with renewing interest in the case, generating new leads and identifying new witnesses, etc. Apparently, Chris is going to issue further episodes as the trial progresses. Great.
My name is Chris Lambert. I'm a singer-songwriter. And at some point that afternoon, I Googled Kristin Smart. It was a name I remember hearing a lot growing up. I was 8 when she went missing. I didn't know if it had ever been solved. I didn't know why it had never been solved. She disappeared from Cal Poly in 1996. What I didn't know was that there had been a person of interest since day one in the investigation. I didn't know why he was still out. I didn't know what had happened, but by later that night, I was completely obsessed with the case, and I was shocked that everybody wasn't talking about it constantly, and I was shocked that nobody had done a documentary about it. And there was just a brief, momentary flash that day where I thought, maybe I'm gonna make that documentary.
Chris has said, whilst it's been exciting to see the whole case go to trial, the resolution for me needs to be where Kristin's body is at. If that doesn't come out of the trial, even if there's a conviction, it's still going to feel like a little bit of a letdown because it doesn't answer the big question. I'll put a link to YOB and Chris's website in the comments below. Well, that's it for now. If you have any questions or want me to cover something specifically, then please leave them in the comments below. I do request that you subscribe to the channel, and thanks in advance for that. If you hit the notification bell, then you won't miss out on further Kristin Smart updates and other videos as they're published. Bye for now.